Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be looking into the military tactics of Genghis Khan, a name that echoes through history. You know, conquering an empire, it's no easy thing. It's a really impressive feat, let alone one that's significantly larger and wealthier than your own. So how did Genghis Khan manage to conquer the Khwarezmian Empire? I'm joined by a military history expert to help us unravel this historical puzzle. Thanks for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's set the stage. The year is 1218. Imagine the sprawling Khwarezmian Empire, a dominant force across Central Asia, boasting key cities like the vibrant Bukhara and the magnificent Samarkand. These were hubs of trade and culture, reflecting the empire's immense wealth.
Yeah, the Khwarezmian Empire was a force to be reckoned with. They had a very strong military and a seemingly impenetrable defense system. Vast deserts acted as natural barriers, the Sirdarya River carved its way through the terrain, and any attack from the south would necessitate a long and grueling journey.
So how did Genghis Khan even approach this seemingly unconquerable empire?
Well, before the conflict, there was this surprising element of diplomacy. The Mongol and Khwarezmian empires actually had a decent relationship. They shared common enemies and saw the potential for collaboration. So recognizing this, Genghis Khan decided to play the diplomacy card. He sent ambassadors to the Khwarezmian Shah with a proposal to reopen the legendary Silk Road for trade. He envisioned mutual benefits for both empires. He even sent a large caravan brimming with merchants and goods as a grand gesture of goodwill, solidifying his intentions.
The Silk Road. What a strategic move. Connected the East and the West, held immense potential for economic prosperity. It seems like a smart move by Genghis Khan. So what happened next?
Unfortunately, this act of good faith met with a shocking turn of events. Upon reaching Otrar, a city on the Khwarezmian Empire's northeastern border, the caravan encountered the city's governor Inalchuk. Now he suspected the merchants of being spies rather than genuine traders, and he made a fateful decision. He ordered their execution and the seizure of their goods.
That's a dramatic escalation. What was Genghis Khan's reaction?
Well, as you can imagine, he was enraged by this blatant violation of diplomatic norms. It was a direct affront, a slap in the face. Genghis Khan, a man known for his decisive action, demanded justice. He sent a message to Shah Muhammad, the ruler of the Khwarezmian Empire, calling for the punishment of the governor and a formal apology for this egregious act.
Seems like a reasonable demand given the circumstances. How did Shah Muhammad respond?
He was blinded by arrogance, fueled by overconfidence in his empire's vast size and perceived military might. Shah Muhammad outright dismissed Genghis Khan's demands. He firmly believed that the Mongols posed no real threat to his forces, and he really underestimated Genghis Khan's strategic brilliance and the might that the Mongol army was about to unleash.
That was a fatal miscalculation.
Indeed it was, and it really set the stage for this clash of empires, a conflict fueled by betrayal and underestimation. The first clash came in 1219. Shah Muhammad's son Jalal ad-Din led a Khwarezmian force, and they successfully repelled a Mongol attack led by General Jebe. This victory, however, served only to amplify their overconfidence. They dismissed the Mongols as disorganized and weak, failing to grasp the strategic depth of Genghis Khan's plans.
This is getting really interesting. We have a conflict brewing, fueled by pride and miscalculation, and a dangerous underestimation of the enemy. So what happened next?
This is where Genghis Khan truly shows his mastery of warfare. But I think we need to pause here for now.
You're right. We've covered a lot of ground already. Let's take a moment for everyone to process this, and we'll come right back to hear about what Genghis Khan does next. Welcome back. We left off with the Khwarezmians dismissing the Mongols as a true threat. They were basking in the afterglow of that initial victory, but little did they know Genghis Khan was about to turn the tide, and in a truly remarkable way.
Yes, Genghis Khan was a master of psychological warfare. He knew that a swift and decisive response would send a powerful message. It would shatter that illusion of Khwarezmian invincibility. He chose Otrar, the city where the initial betrayal occurred, as his target. The Mongol attack was brutal and relentless, a classic example of shock and awe, designed to demoralize and cripple the enemy's will to fight.
So that's a powerful statement. Striking at the very heart of the betrayal, it's both symbolic and strategic. So what did he do next? Did he march directly toward the Khwarezmian heartland?
Not quite. He had a much more intricate plan in mind. Genghis Khan divided his forces. General Joshi was ordered to lead a force along the Sirdarya River, effectively pinning down a significant portion of the Khwarezmian army. At the same time, General Jebe, who was believed to have been defeated in the earlier skirmish, seemingly vanished with a smaller force of 20,000 horsemen.
Vanished. Where did he go?
Yeah,
This has all the markings of a brilliant military maneuver.
it was. This disappearance was a calculated move. to sow confusion and fear within the Khwarezmian ranks. The uncertainty of where Jebi's force was and when they might strike created a pervasive sense of anxiety and disrupted their strategic planning.
So we have two Mongol forces, one engaging the enemy head-on, the other disappearing into the vast landscape. Sounds like a classic pincer movement in the making.
Exactly. Now let's talk about the Mongol cavalry, specifically the force led by General Jebi. These weren't your typical cavalry units. Each of the 20,000 horsemen had 4 or 5 spare horses. This incredible mobility allowed them to cover vast distances very, very rapidly, striking unexpectedly, and then melting back into the terrain before the enemy could mount a counterattack.
4 or 5 spare horses per soldier. That's an incredible logistical feat. How did they manage to sustain such a force?
Well, the Mongols were masters of resourcefulness. They lived off the land. They even used spare horses for sustenance when needed. This eliminated the need for cumbersome supply trains, which were often a vulnerability for traditional armies. They were incredibly agile, quick, and self-sufficient, giving them a significant edge in warfare.
So speed, agility, and self-sufficiency, those were their hallmarks. What about their fighting style? What tactics did they employ in battle?
They were masters of lightning raids and strategic retreats. They would strike with ferocity, inflicting maximum damage, and then vanish before the enemy could regroup. Their tactics were designed to be fluid, unpredictable, and incredibly difficult to counter.
It sounds incredibly frustrating to fight against such a force.
Yeah.
So where did General Jebi and his elusive force reappear?
In a move that caught the Khwarezmians completely off guard, Jebi's force reemerged in the northwest. They had anticipated an attack from the east, the logical route from the Mongol heartland. But Genghis Khan, a master of deception, had outmaneuvered them.
So surprise and strategic positioning. Those were key elements in this victory. Was there anything else that contributed to the Mongols' success?
They also had superior equipment. They used flaming arrows, a terrifying weapon especially effective in sieges. And their armor, surprisingly made of silk, was incredibly tough and could deflect blows that would pierce traditional armor.
Silk armor. That's unexpected. Why silk?
Well, silk is incredibly strong and flexible for its weight. Arrows would often lodge in the silk rather than piercing through, making them easier to remove and causing less damage.
Wow, so the Mongols had mobility, surprise, superior tactics, and better equipment. It's becoming clear how they were able to challenge such a larger and wealthier empire.
Exactly, but the true brilliance of Genghis Khan lay in his strategic mind. His slow, quick strategy is still studied in military schools today.
Slow, quick. What does that mean?
It perfectly describes the rhythm of his campaigns. The first, slow, represents meticulous planning and intelligence gathering. Genghis Khan was obsessed with knowing his enemy, the terrain, and using every bit of information to his advantage. For example, in this campaign, he secured a guide who knew the secret routes through the desert, allowing them to bypass the Khwarezmian defenses.
Incredible, crossing a seemingly impassable desert. What about the second slow?
That refers to deliberate feints or distractions, designed to lull the enemy into a false sense of security. The initial skirmish in the Fargana Valley, where General Jebi lost to Jalal ad-Din, could have been a calculated move to create a sense of overconfidence in the Khwarezmian forces.
A calculated loss. That's brilliant. What about the quick elements?
The first quick refers to the series of harassing raids led by General Jochi along the Sur Darya. These raids were intended to demoralize the enemy, disrupt their communication, and stretch their forces thin, making them vulnerable.
And the second quick?
That was the final decisive blow delivered by Genghis Khan himself at the heart of the Khwarezmian Empire, Bukhara and Samarkand. With the Khwarezmian forces scattered and demoralized, Genghis Khan struck with overwhelming force, effectively crippling the empire.
What happened to Shah Muhammad, the once proud and arrogant emperor?
He fled westward, desperately trying to rally his forces, but it was too late. His empire was crumbling around him. He eventually died alone and defeated on an island in the Caspian Sea, a far cry from his opulent palaces.
What a dramatic fall from grace.
It's a testament to the effectiveness of Genghis Khan's strategies. He understood that warfare was as much about psychology as it was about military might. He knew how to use fear, uncertainty, and his enemy's miscalculations to his advantage. His methods, while brutal, were undeniably effective.
This has been absolutely fascinating. It's incredible how Genghis Khan was able to conquer such a mighty empire, using a combination of brilliant strategy, psychological warfare, and unconventional tactics.
Indeed, and his tactics and strategies continue to be studied and analyzed by military minds even today.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this section, and I think it's time for us to take a short break. We'll be back to explore some more modern examples of military tactics that echo those used by Genghis Khan. Stay with us. Welcome back. We've been discussing the fascinating military strategies of Genghis Khan, and you mentioned some more modern examples where we see echoes of his strategic thinking. Let's explore those.
Well, think about the American Revolution. The colonists were massively outmatched by the British in terms of resources and manpower, but they used guerrilla tactics similar to what we discussed with the Mongols to wear down the British and exploit their
Right.
vulnerabilities.
Hit and run tactics, ambushes, using the terrain to their advantage.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But the British were a sophisticated military force, so how did these tactics actually work against them?
Well, the British were used to fighting in open fields and formation. They weren't prepared for this unconventional warfare. The colonists would strike, quickly disappear into the forest, and then reappear somewhere else. This constant harassment frustrated the British and made it difficult for them to maintain control.
It's fascinating to see how these ideas developed centuries ago can still be effective in a completely different context.
Exactly. And it's not just about the tactics themselves, it's about the underlying principles: adaptability, understanding your enemy's weaknesses, and using your strengths to exploit them.
So it's not just about having the best weapons or the biggest army, it's about using your resources effectively and playing to your strengths.
Precisely. Another example, and this one might surprise you, is the rise of cyber warfare. Think about how hackers operate. They exploit vulnerabilities in systems, they use deception and misdirection, and they can strike from anywhere in the world, just like Genghis Khan's cavalry could appear out of nowhere.
That's an interesting parallel. I never thought about it that way. It's like the digital equivalent of a lightning rate.
Exactly. And the psychological impact is similar. A successful cyber attack can cripple infrastructure, disrupt communications, and sow fear and uncertainty, just like Genghis Khan's campaigns did.
So we've gone from horse-mounted warriors to digital warriors, but the underlying principles remain the same.
That's the key takeaway here. Genghis Khan's brilliance wasn't just about his specific tactics, but his understanding of the human element of warfare. He knew how to exploit fear, uncertainty, and his enemy's assumptions, and those principles are still relevant today, even in the digital age.
This has been a really eye-opening look into military history. We've seen how the tactics of a 13th century conqueror are still relevant today, from the battlefields of the American Revolution to the virtual world of cyber warfare.
It's a testament to the enduring power of strategic thinking, and it's a reminder that no matter how much technology changes the fundamental principles of warfare, the psychology of conflict remain remarkably consistent.
I think that's a great point to end on. So to wrap things up, I want you to think about this. If Genghis Khan were alive today, how do you think he would approach modern warfare? What tactics would he use? What innovations would he embrace? Let us know your thoughts and keep exploring the fascinating world of military history. Until